Newspaper advertising. Advertising has generally been agreed upon that it began alongside newspapers in the 17th century. Many of these early advertisements were line advertisements and usually announced the publication of a new book or the opening of a play. The push of technology after the Industrial Revolution made the newspaper more widely available, and ad size began to grow as the amount of pages to print on grew. As time passed, we began to see the number of ads in newspapers increase. It was then realized that promoting your business through the newspaper would be the best option, with daily, weekly, national, and special audience newspapers, where more consumers could be reached. Types of newspaper ads. The major types of newspaper ads are display and classified ads. There are also special types of ads called pre-printed inserts. Display advertising includes illustrations, headlines, white space, and many other visual devices. There are both local and national display advertising. Local organizations and businesses communicate with consumers in the area through this. Supermarkets and department stores lead the pack in display advertising, with retailers and banks following. Retailers account for 85% of local display ads. Classified advertising are arranged under subheads according to the product, service, or offering being advertised. Employment, real estate, and automotive are the three main categories of classified. Special ads and inserts include a variety of government and financial reports and notices of changes in businesses and personal relationships. Many retailers use inserts like catalogs and brochures in specific areas to reach shoppers. The advantages and limitations of newspapers. Some advantages. Newspapers readers often look for deals and coupons while reading. Placing your ad in a newspaper doesn't guarantee that readers will notice it, but a reader actively looking for deals is more than likely going to notice your ad and take time to read it. Newspaper ads are expected by readers, and their placement is often near content similar to the ad content. Many people feel like commercials and website pop-up ads are very intrusive. Newspaper advertising allows the targeting of specific audiences. Newspapers often have special sections, releases, and inserts that target audiences based on holiday or seasonal events, specific geographic areas, or specific groups of people, like ethnic groups or college students. Some disadvantages. Newspaper pages often mix ads with editorial content, and a page's multiple ads can create a visual clutter and competing messages. Readers presented with multiple ads may subconsciously spend less time on each individual ad, leaving your ad overlooked. Media competition is a huge factor, especially now. Cable television provides 24-hour news coverage with in-depth coverage of major events nationwide and local. News websites often cover additional stories and can update their content by the second and even in real time. Consumers usually get their ads via email, either by computers or their mobile device. These consumers look to their mobile devices to meet their needs and rarely feel the need to search through newspapers for ads and deals. The future of newspapers. Despite the declining circulation of newspapers, the daily paper still produces revenue that many other industries envy. Without newspaper content, there isn't much news for television news stations to report. Newspapers face competition from various online sites for classified and employment advertising. Classified advertising revenue for U.S. newspapers has declined since 2000. Craigslist and eBay have taken over the consumers looking to find merchandise that was traditionally sold through the classifieds. Newspapers are fighting the digital age and challenges from other media. Newspapers are now creating sophisticated databases and direct email capabilities in an effort to sustain relationships with their advertisers. As the younger generation proves to be heavy into technology and social media, it will be a challenge to convert them to newspaper readers.
Read all about it. paper boy pitching the headlines. Dad, after finishing his shift at the factory, coming home to the evening paper.
In Russia.
Images emblematic of a simpler time. Now, most evidence suggests that the traditional newspaper, a once cherished institution, is under siege. So what's next? To answer the question, let's take a look at a few watershed moments that got us to where we are now. In the 125 years since the Wall Street Journal first hit newsstands on July 8, 1889, the way news is produced and consumed has been constantly evolving. What was the first big breakthrough for newspapers? From the early days of the Republic, newspapers and the free press helped define American democracy. But it wasn't until the 1860s that reading them became a ritual of the masses. That's when the wider use of the rotary press, capable of cranking out tens of thousands of copies per hour, made newspapers a salable commodity on a larger scale. Most publishers used their ink, purchased by the barrel, to promote a point of view, the kind of highly politicized reporting we today call biased. When the Wall Street Journal entered the fray, it was a 4-page afternoon paper that sold for 2 cents. Its focus confined at the time to business and the latest happenings on Wall Street, staying off to the side as William Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer's New York papers went to war. Historians say the competition between them drew the country into an actual conflict, with fabricated stories that goaded public sympathy for Cuban revolutionaries leading to the Spanish-American War. How did newspapers become less partisan? With World War I, readers hungered for timely, accurate information, and the more partisan newspapers began to close, publishers realizing it made better financial sense to take the middle ground. Also around this time, a new technology dramatically helped to change journalistic standards.
Serving the world's top newspapers with lightning-fast reports geared to press deadline.
By 1914, teletype machines gave reputable news sources the near-instant ability to transmit their reports to newspapers around the country, offering a straight treatment of the news. By the 1920s, the Journal, with its reputation for independent financial reporting, sold around 50,000 papers per day. Back then, it served a far more niche audience than it does now.
Most of us read a paper every day.
By World War II, Americans' news hunger was fed by radio and the U.S.'s 380 morning newspapers and 1,500 evening papers, with a total daily circulation of over 41 million copies. That came to almost 1 copy for every 3 Americans. The post-war boom fed the news industry's vast advertising revenue.
What do you read? What do you read?
Newspapers growing ever thicker with more news, classified ads, stock listings, comics, and coupons.
And here's Father now, coming home from his daily work.
They symbolized in popular culture America's newly affluent middle-class lifestyle. What knocked newspapers off their perch?
The era of television.
Competition in the living room began heating up. TV by the 1960s was becoming the go-to source for fast-breaking news. But Americans for a while maintained their reading habits. After growing rapidly in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, newspapers held on to their circulation numbers through the 70s and early 80s, their numbers peaking in 1984 at over 63 million subscribers. But then came the 90s, and as the internet spread, newspapers slid and slid. The numbers falling by 2011 to below where they were in 1945. And that brings us back to the original question. What's next for newspapers? Many experts predict that within 1 or 2 decades, the paper part of newspapers will die. But that doesn't necessarily mean the end of the institutions themselves. Digital technology is feeding us more news in more places than ever before. Today, for example, almost half of U.S. households own a tablet, and 43% of tablet owners report they're using the device to consume more news. Publishers are looking for new ways to deliver the news and on virtually any device, whether it's on your body, like your glasses, or your watch, or in places around the house, refrigerators, countertops. The bathroom mirror could even become the next newsstand. And as our devices get smarter, perhaps so will we. But that part of the story is still being written.
Now for the rest of the story.
Just not on paper.
They go up along the belt to the circulation room.
And here are some tips for effective newspaper ads. Choose your newspapers carefully. Advertising in regional and national newspapers costs much more than advertising locally or within a community. If your business trade is localized, it makes more sense to focus on the community or local papers that your customers are likely to read. Pay attention to the competition. Your competitors are also spending money on newspaper advertising, meaning you will need to refine your content to stand out from the competition, and another factor to consider is how much you want to spend on ads. Content. Get the reader's attention with an eye-catching headline. Depending on your message, it is important to consider the copy length. Long copy looks informative, while short copy allows for graphics to be inserted. A list of benefits or reasons should be included in the body of the copy. Contact, telephone, website, address, or ordering information should be included for the consumer to act on his or her purchasing decision. And that will conclude my presentation on newspaper advertising. Thank you.